Hi, my name is Charles, and welcome to Speak On It Comics, where we bring to you the best of the best in comics, manga, anime, animation, and comic book films. Tonight, we're going to discuss Saga from Image Comics, which was written by Brian K. Vaughan, who has done such works as Why the Last Man and Ex Machina, and also beautifully drawn by the very talented Fiona Staples. What is Saga? Well, Saga is a classic fantasy tale of two lovers from two different worlds, whose two worlds are currently colliding in a long-term intergalactic war. These two lovers risk everything for their new life and their unborn child. So, Speak On It Comics presents Saga. So here, to talk with me about Saga, I have a few people that is going to be discussing. We have, from Speak On It Comics, we have JJ.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
And we're also being hosted by FJB Comics and Games. And from FJB Comics, we have Floyd. Stand up, Floyd.
Yo!
Yeah, he's not that tall. And we also have Herb.
Hey.
And we also got our comic fans as well. That's going to be here. You can just wave at the camera there. Okay. And basically what Saga is about two lovers that are from two different worlds. That two worlds are currently colliding under an intergalactic war. This intergalactic war has been going over for so many different years. And these two lovers are taking a big risk with trying to bring a new life for their unborn child. So, without further ado, let's speak on it. So, all of us have read so many different comics, and I'm pretty sure everyone has read a lot of different romantic pieces. So, what made this comic different than all the other romantic pieces that you've read in the past? Anyway.
It's a romantic piece, and yet the first lines of the comic are, "Am I shitting? It feels like I'm shitting." And yet it's still really touching.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, to me, it feels more like a Star Wars thing going on. Like, I'm sad to say, like episode 1 through 3, sort of, because it's like you could pretty much switch the two main characters for Anakin and the Padmala, I guess her name was.
I think
It feels like
Pat.
it. Don't look at me like that. Don't look at me like that. All right. But yeah, there we go, Padme.
But I think Marco's a better actor than the...
Oh yeah, no, definitely. This is by far way better than that piece of crap. But
George Lucas, we didn't mean that, by the way, if you want to work with us.
I mean, but this is by far way better than those three first pieces of crap. And once I started reading, I was hooked. I couldn't freaking stop. One sitting, nonstop. So.
Okay. I mean, did you find yourselves really? I think the difference between a lot of different romantic pieces, I think in this one you kind of found yourself kind of rooting for him.
Yeah.
In a way. So I think that was really the big thing about this particular book. I mean, even though they're in the midst of so much, with everything they're trying to flee from their past, and of course they're trying to, of course help with trying to find a new life for their child or their unborn child at that point in time. But that was the thing with me. I felt like I was rooting for him, So the big thing that I come to find out is that this book got a lot of buzz. One of the, I guess, they got buzz for two reasons. One, for a very compelling story, and the very fantasy element. But my thing was that also too it got a lot of buzz for the very explicit content and the graphic. Yeah, that too. Yeah. So my questions to all of you guys is explicit, or I would say graphic images, necessary to bring about a story?
Not necessary in my opinion, but like it brings a little more, I guess, adult to it. I guess I don't know. I don't think it's necessary, but I like explicit. So
okay.
That's
It brought more character into the world itself instead of just, fantasy land.
Right.
I wouldn't say it was as explicit as it was natural. Like, at no point was the sex scenes just forced or thrown in the book.
Okay.
I didn't feel like the nudity was just out of nowhere.
It wasn't gratuitous.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It wasn't gratuitous. It was just like, hey, this is what happens, all right?
Right.
I'm having a baby. Boom, baby popped out. There's blood there. Hey, I had sex. It happened. So,
Right.
there's nothing too crazy about it. It wasn't just shock value like a lot of books do.
Right.
He wasn't trying to cover anything up in terms of, oh, I might not get a movie deal if I keep
No,
it
but
this
yeah,
way.
I mean, I think that some of the things that's always been a, sort of like the thing that's always been a big argument about, you know, if comics with graphic images is important to have in order to tell a story. So I think that's always been a big thing. So graphic images is not an issue for anyone at this
Well, you know what? He could have used, or Fiona Staples, the artist, could have used shadow to block certain things out. They could have put it off panel, but why? You know, everybody knows what they're suggesting. There was really no reason to, and he's telling a pretty adult story.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I was gonna add, like, I went to Comic-Con 2012. They actually did like a little roundtable with Fiona Staples and Brian K. Vaughan.
Mhm.
And one of the main parts of the book, one of the things that the reason he wanted to do the book was because he wanted to force her to draw the worst things he could think up.
Okay.
So it was literally like he would come up with something like, you know, like the robots in the book having sex or something like that. He
Right.
would say, oh, you know, it would be cool if televisions, like if people with television heads were having sex. And
Right.
she was like, I don't know if I could draw that. And he's like, that's what we want.
Right.
So like, and he was like going on like that's what he wants. So, like every issue, he wants to push her to do something that she may or may not be comfortable with.
Right.
So that's another reason I guess it's explicit,
Okay.
because it's kind of like a challenge for the author to artist. You
Okay.
know? Yeah.
Okay. I mean, one of the things that, you know, I mean, this is, I mean, even though they're intergalactic species, this is almost like interracial dating for the most part.
It's exactly what it
It's
is.
exactly what it's telling me. So my thing is that, you know, one of the things they you know, people say, psychologists say, with dating someone outside your race is the fact that you should be sensitive and you should be respectful to your partner's traditions and culture, you know? So did they practice that, these two couples, you know?
No.
at
No.
all?
No. I mean, one thing that I noticed was when they were talking about traditions for their kids. Is like Marco was like, I thought we were gonna like let go of the barbaric traditions of our past or
Mhm.
of our races, and she's like, no, it's not tradition. It's more like, you know, like it's not religion. It's more tradition or something like that.
Mhm.
And you know, like, I mean, that was a little disrespectful, but from Marco's point of view, I guess, it makes sense, because, you know, they want a new life for the kid, not their old life, which is pretty much brought on by war for the past so
And-
many years.
And the way they set it up too between the two characters is that they're at war.
Right.
So Marco's culture and Alana, that's her name,
Oh,
right?
yes.
Her culture, they're battling each other and they're enemies. So
Mhm.
of course you're gonna have, you know, those primary instincts of I don't want to do anything that my enemy does. It's just like they're not gonna do what I want to do. So they're gonna butt heads
Mhm.
with that. But I mean, it's just like a married couple too. Married couples fight and it's
Mhm.
normal. It's normal, but put on a bigger scale of like intergalactic
Right.
and like aliens and stuff. But it's
Yeah.
all normal, grounded things, just with pictures and, you know,
Yeah.
yeah,
other things like that.
I felt like they could have probably been on Earth with some of the dialogue and the situations.
Absolutely.
You're right with the interracial thing. They're not very respectful of each other's culture, but then again, they have their own arguments and disagreements, and that shows the love that they have. So of course they can be a little bit more free with how they feel about the other's, I guess, race of people from a different planet or whatever. They have a natural relationship. And one thing that you said about at the beginning with the relationship, it is a very powerful relationship. And when I didn't think I was going to buy the book. When I first got it, I read the first 5 pages and I got hooked. And I was wondering why that was, because a lot of people like the characters are so good. Do you think it's because he started with an emotional scene, and it's almost like you're in there with them in terms of you're in a private moment with them and you get emotionally engaged?
Right.
And I think he pulled off a nice trick like that. It pulls you into it.
Mhm.
Sort of like when you introduced me to Walking Dead with Rick, you start off with him waking up alone in the hospital, but he enters this crazy world. That's a fear that I think a lot of people have. It's another nice writing trick. They get you emotionally involved with the character, whereas some other books, maybe, they just take you through situation after situation but you don't get that investment in the character. With this one, I feel like the people speaking here, we like them. They're good people.
All right, so as far as like bizarre characters, I mean, obviously Brian K. Vaughan is, great with building this world, this really fantasy, crazy trees flying and all these different characters with the guy with the TV head and all these different things. I mean, what do you guys think of the characterization, and did he pull it off well?
Amazingly well.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's truly unique. Definitely, I haven't seen that. I mean, I've seen it in like weird Adult Swim cartoons, but it just fits here pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, the ghost. What's her name?
Isabel.
Isabel.
She's my favorite
Yeah,
character.
Yeah, she's so funny and, yeah.
I think I like that she's cut off from the waist down.
It's like a weird version of Casper the Ghost.
Yeah, all her organs kind of just falling.
I think it gives it more of a space opera feel because, even in the Star Wars movies, most of the main characters are humanoids.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone looks like a normal Earthling, so it's like, oh, how is this in space when everything is pretty much, oh, we're all humans here. With this, all the characters, granted, Marco and Alana, are humanoid characters, but they have distinct features that they aren't specifically human. Alana with her wings, Marco with his horns, but then you have Prince Robot the Fourth, who has the TV head,
Right.
or you have the Stalk, who's a female's semi-humanoid spider. It gives it a more variety to say, oh, this is in space. It's not anywhere else.
Right.
And
What
great,
else is-
great design, character designs too. They really stand out. Like certain books, certain characters, you know them through their look. With this, you know them through their look. Let's say you take Popeye with his big arms and the chin. You take the Thing made out of rocks and everything. With these characters, I mean, the guy with the Prince Robot, everybody's going to remember this character because of the visual design. So, props to her for working it that way. We had instant iconic designs for these characters. Where it's like, you've never been created before this, but it's almost like you've been around forever. So that's remarkable.
I think
to
that
me.
though has a lot to do with the dialogue in the book. The character models are crazy. They're out of this world. They're over the top, which is what you would expect going into it, knowing that it's in outer space. But I think he writes them very real. The Will. He's like a bounty hunter or whatever he's got to do, but he has very raw, real emotions. He has like a certain moral code that he won't break, and it's even though he's, I guess at this point he's a villain because he's hunting the two main characters. He's kind of like gray. He doesn't have that black, that white. Not that I've seen so far in the first 6 issues.
But yet he does something very heroic
Right,
by saving
exactly,
a child.
exactly.
And it's almost like no matter where you are, no matter how far out from this universe you go, there are certain moral codes that are familiar to everyone and is almost a part of us as not only the human race, but I guess if you say there's life outside of here,
Let's say
Let's
say that.
You would hope that it would extend outward.
Yeah.
The Will is a great example of how what is perceived as bad might not be morally bad just because of the situation that they're in. Like the Will is hunting down, just because he's paid to do it. Like that's just his job. He's a good guy. He's a great guy. Saving the girl, and also he's like the only human in the series so far, right?
So far that we know.
So far,
Yeah, so far,
yes.
I
In the
mean,
first volume, yes.
I mean,
Yes.
he might have like wings or scales somewhere that we don't see, but so far he's the only person that really looks human.
And I think also too, that was some of the reason why they sent him after Marco, because Marco's obviously a highly trained soldier, and he's definitely a badass, and so was his wife. His wife is. That's pretty much how they met for the most part. Didn't he get captured or something like that?
He was a prisoner, and she was working, I think, in the jail that he was
She
being
was
kept
like
at.
the guy. She was guarding him.
Yeah,
pretty
pretty
much.
I think
Okay.
that's the next. I think
No,
that's
that's here.
Really?
No, yeah, they talk about it. They give him a prisoner number and everything, and how did he escape, and then they get the robot to look into it. I like
the Rhino. Never mind, that might be later. I don't know.
I like how
That's Spidey, right?
I like how even though all the characters are doing their own thing, there is that sense of these guys are, I don't want to sound cheesy and say their fates are intertwined, but he's kind of getting to that. Like, they all have something to do with each other, even though they haven't physically met yet. Okay, yeah, that guy. Okay, that makes sense.
Okay,
I thought
yes.
he was like a bison.
Yeah, he doesn't really
type
look like a
of
rhino.
The rhino was in Spider-Man. That's like more like a bison.
I was remembering him more as a rhino. He's more like Stegosaurus. No, Triceratops. Triceratops.
That would be
I'm not even
creepy.
gonna try to pronounce that.
New terms on Speak On It.
Yeah, exactly.
See, kid, you can learn from this girl.
And I think
No,
that
you
was.
can't. No, you can't.
But that's the thing. I think that was one of the reasons why they sent him, particularly to go after him, because they kind of have sort of the same moral scale. Both characters, Marco and the Will. So he figured, he'll send someone who kind of knows how this guy ticks, to go after him, which is smart, But I come to find out that, and I think as we kind of read more into this this particular book, I kind of feel like there's a lot more to the Will than in the surface that we see. We understand that he's a bounty hunter, so obviously he has some, he's dangerous. But at the same time, I just think that there's something else emotionally, the way that he, saved the slave girl. I was.
Yeah.
That scene was like appalling to me. Like I saw it and I was like a 6-year-old girl, and the way, and it was so funny because the angle of the shot of the girl, like you see her looking at you with those, pretty eyes and all that stuff, and she's looking at you like this, and the way they shot it, I just thought that was like amazing, the way that they did that, because you really felt like, oh my God, it's just a little girl, and then just for him to just, exactly. And just for him to just trigger something inside him to just like, kill the pimp. I guess
That's one thing that I loved about the book. No matter how outrageous the characters look or how out of the world they are, the things that they face are similar to things that we would face. Those moral dilemmas, and it's like it brought you into reality where stuff like that goes on, and we have to do something to get rid of it. To help these kids who are being exploited like that. Brian K. Vaughan, and we should say the first speak on it we ever did was one of his books, Why the Last Man. As a writer, I think he's fearless because he tackles subjects that, are kind of brutal and that make you think. And, I have to say props to him for doing that.
Yeah.
He's not afraid to push the envelope, writing style and art as well.
Exactly. The fantasy with a heavy dose of reality.
Yeah.
Would you want to see this in a movie format?
Absolutely.
I would say no.
Would you want to see? Would you want to see Sextillion on film?
If it was done right.
Yeah, I was gonna say done right. It's done right.
Done right.
It's not a movie. This is an HBO show.
Okay, yes.
HBO would be able to do
AMC,
HBO,
or
yeah.
a movie produced by Guillermo del Toro. It would be fine.
No, but what'll happen is they'll get like Michael Bay to do it, and they'll just do explosions everywhere. Saga with explosions.
What about Tim Burton?
Or yeah, maybe Tim Burton will do it.
No.
And he'll have Johnny Depp play every single character.
Johnny Depp as Lion Cat.
That just kind of remind me of
My favorite character. That would be great.
I think Johnny Depp reminds you of everybody. Who
Peter
would be-
Parker.
Oh yeah.
No, I
Johnny
really
Depp.
haven't thought about it until you said director, not Johnny Depp.
Tim Burton.
Tim Burton?
Tim Burton. The use of color in this book is fantastic. Like, there's some scenes that are so colorful, certain areas that are just green and lush, or other areas that are supposed to be like barren and they're just so dry and gray. Like, if Tim Burton gets her hands on this, it will only be dry and gray.
It'll just be black, and everything will be black, and then
What's wrong with that?
nothing's wrong with black. It'll be really dark. It'll be really dark.
Beautiful.
It'll be the really dark saga. That's what you call dark saga.
What's wrong with that?
Well, I think that's one of the things that's good about this. It does have a cinematic feel. So whoever tackles this got a lot of work ahead of them. If they do.
And that's one reason why I think he put some of the more graphic scenes in there. It's almost like he's challenging Hollywood. This is a popular story. It's a lot of great things in it, but do you have, let's say, the balls to go all out like I did? Probably not. Unless if you get Zack Snyder.
Not if
That's what I
Disney.
said,
Not if
Dr.
Disney.
Manhattan.
That's what I said. You can do
Saga
HBO.
Disney. No way. That's not gonna happen.
HBO, you can push more limit. You're not at the will of the, you're not
Right.
censored too much, but at the same time, your budget's not as big as it would be with
I mean, but who would play the sextillion with the head and just legs? Who would play
Holly
that?
Berry.
Halle Berry?
CGI. It'd have to be some type of CGI.
Yeah.
Which one?
But you know what? It would make a fantastic animated movie.
I guess.
I think they should just stick with it as a
animated
book.
movie would automatically cut off like a lot
They
of
should
fans.
just keep it as a book.
Yeah.
If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Well, you
Yeah.
have to do it as a more realistic animation in terms of you couldn't do it. And Pixar, I don't think would touch it.
No.
You know,
Wally
but
and Saga.
but I think
Lightning
there are
McQueen
certain,
and Saga.
there are
That's
certain
like one of the better-
animators that could do it justice.
Yeah, that's one of the better parts. Well, that's another thing. Like comic book wise, like comic books, they're the last medium where you can do whatever you want. Especially like with Image Comics, it's like whatever you think in your mind, you could put down, and there's never going to be anybody who's going to say no to you.
Right.
Movies, music, television. There's always that one guy, whether it be like the censors or a producer or somebody who's giving you the money for it. That's always like, no, we want you to do this or change this.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I don't think Saga should, I really don't think it should be a movie or anything, because it's like, it's just him. It's him and her,
Right.
and it's like whatever they feel like doing, they can do, and there's like just nobody else involved.
You know what I think? I think Telltale Games should pick it up and make it a series.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
That would be awesome,
Okay.
because they already did the Walking Dead game, so that would be like
And Fables.
And
They're
Fables.
doing a Game of Thrones and a James Bond,
Yeah,
right?
that would be
Bond.
that would be brilliant.
And Borderlands.
They're
And
doing
James
a
Bond.
James Bond one too, I think.
They have too much on their plate right now.
We have a Borderlands coming?
Yeah.
And honestly, I think Saga will be eventually made into a movie or something.
It's,
Right.
it's like a Walking
Because,
Dead.
I mean, Why the Last Man ended in 2007 or 2008.
Right.
And Brian K. Vaughan just said this year that the rights to whoever they sold the rights to, they get the rights back this year.
Okay.
So he said no matter what this year, whether whoever he sold the rights to does something,
Right.
or he gets the rights back, you're going to hear about a movie sometime this year. So it's
Why,
only a
Why
matter
the
of
Last
time.
Man is I haven't read it, so if I'm not mistaken, it's
great.
literally the last man on
Yeah,
the earth,
it's-
right?
Yeah.
Everything with a Y chromosome has been wiped out.
Every mammal with
Except
a white
for-
chromosome except for him as his monkey.
Why the
Except him
last
and
man?
his monkey.
His
what are
other
we talking
book.
about?
Why the Last Man?
Him and his
No,
monkey.
Yeah.
It's his other.
It's,
It's his
Brian
other
K.
book.
Vaughan's also.
Yeah.
I
No,
read-
it's and we're definitely going to do that book as well. So
Yeah,
so
I
we're
want to
gonna
do it again because it's just very interesting.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
pick that up too.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm deployed.
You know, it has a lot of things. It's not what you think it's going to be,
I need to
and
finish it. I stopped
it's
it.
really good.
So is this so far your favorite? Like as far as Brian K. Vaughan, is this to you your favorite?
It's
From
the
him?
only thing I've read by him.
Oh, no. I've read, well, he has, so I've read Runaways, and I've read, most of Why the Last Man. I didn't read the last trade, but I kind of know what happens.
Don't spoil it. I didn't read the last one.
Based on what I've read so far from Saga, I don't know. It depends on what you're looking for, because like most of his stuff is, I guess, more grounded in, I guess, reality. So if you're looking for more of that, fantastic element, sci-fi stuff, then Saga is definitely what you're gonna want to take a look at, because
Yeah.
Why the Last Man is very realistic. It's all on Earth, like nothing really fantastic in terms of like out of this world happens in it.
Right.
Everything's rooted in reality.
Right.
But I'm waiting for something in Saga just to be like, all right, this is why I'm better than Why the Last Man.
Right.
But Why the Last Man, I would say, is his at present his better work.
Okay.
I'm probably going to give it to Runaways.
You
Like
give it to
Paul
Runaways?
and stuff. I mean, it was just a group of kids who,
First series or second series?
his run on it.
Oh, you stick around?
Yeah, his run on it. It was a group of kids whose parents were villains. They found out, pretty much trying to find their place in the world.
Okay.
So each one had their different powers. They ran into your basic superheroes and had to tell them, no, we're good on our own. We don't need you taking care of us. Still my favorite of his. I mean, between that, he created the character the Hood that Brian Michael Bendis eventually started using. Why the Last Man in this? I still think Runaways is my favorite. But the thing is, we're only 18 issues into this, so it has so much room to
Yeah.
just
Right.
blow everything else
Yeah.
out the order.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then like Runaways gets sullied because of Joss Whedon and like.
Well, I think it's more editorial mandate than it was Whedon.
Okay, yeah, but it's just like in the overall thing, it's like you can't really. I mean, yeah, Runaways was amazing. It's hard to compare creator owned versus like Marvel owned
Yeah.
because it's like no matter how like great an idea it was to create Runaways, like Brian K. Vaughan was like, yeah, this is great. He created this great world. It was like no matter what, when he walked away from it, the world still existed, and it didn't matter. Like he never had like the power to
To
you know
say
keep that quality. Yeah.
You could have ended Runaways.
If you ended it on his run,
no,
I
you
would
could
agree
end it
too.
at the first
Probably,
series.
yeah.
At the end of the first series,
You did it
Yeah.
there for me.
and you could
Yeah,
have
like-
ended it there, and then that would have been a fantastic series
yeah.
right there.
If you go by that,
But
then,
it's
yeah,
like
that's
I said,
probably
it's
my favorite
creator
one,
owned.
too.
Like they're Marvel's whim to do whatever they want with them. Whereas like Why the Last Man, that had a definitive ending. That's not going past
Yeah.
where it ended. Ex Machina,
Yeah.
you know, that ended as well. So, I mean, I feel like his work is better outside of what's it called
Marvel.
Yeah, outside of the big
outside
two.
of the big two. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think now you just have to look at it when, like Floyd said, his run on Runaways. I think now with the mainstream comics, you just have to look at it as your favorite creator's run, and that's the definitive version for you. Everything that comes after, unless if it's very good, people probably discount. You know, we can all name our favorite series where it's like, gee, this is the greatest thing ever. And then the person or the people left it and they were like, oh, this is crap now.
Yeah.
You know? So
That
I
happens
tend
a
not,
lot.
I tend not to think of the crap. I just tend to think of the great stuff that great run.
Yeah.
I'm not naming names.
Well, I mean, for the most part, I mean, I guess I'll leave you guys with a last question. Would anyone's relationship last with a lion cat around? Wherever you mentioned
False.
That's actually my favorite
False.
character.
Yeah.
Lying,
I mean, because,
Oh, is it lying?
Lying,
Lying. My bad.
Yeah.
lying.
I mean, he'll take Maury out and everybody else. I think Lion Cat basically he's, I mean, because he's able to detect if statements are false,
Yeah.
but also if you believe it still, if you believe your statement, he still can detect it. It's a lie. So
I don't want a collar anymore. No lying.
yeah. So
My relationship with it would be painful. Painfully great.
You're on camera.
well, listen, thank you guys. I really appreciate you guys' input. I really appreciate FJB Comics for having us, and I appreciate you guys for showing up and being here and expressing your thoughts on Saga. Pick up Saga. I
It's
mean,
incredible.
it's
amazing.
It's what those guys just said. It's what
It's out of this world.
with that gentleman with the Spider-Man 3 sweater set.
Thank you.
And
Good enough to bring me
And-
down here. with Snacks.
and again, I'd like to thank you guys. Thank you so much for everything. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna be doing another show, and we're gonna actually be doing it on Marvel Comics' popular super soldier, Captain America, the Winter Soldier by Ed Brubaker. So pick up your copy at FJB Comics, and I'll see you guys soon. Thank you so much.